That's right, it's time to talk about the Industrial Revolution. Although it occurred around the same time as the French, American, Latin American, and Haitian revolutions between, say, 1750 and 1850, the Industrial Revolution was really the most revolutionary of the bunch.
No way, dude. All those other revolutions resulted in, like, new borders and flags and stuff.
We've studied 15,000 years of history here at Crash Course Me from the past, and borders and flags have changed plenty, and they're going to keep changing. But in all that time, nothing much changed about the way we disposed of waste, or located drinking water, or acquired clothing. Most people lived on or very close to the land that provided their food. Except for a few exceptions, life expectancy never rose above 35 or below 25. Education was a privilege, not a right. In all those millennia, we never developed a weapon that could kill more than a couple dozen people at once, or a way to travel faster than horseback? For 15,000 years, most humans never owned or used a single item made outside of their communities. You have electricity? Industrial Revolution. Blueberries in February? Industrial Revolution. You live somewhere other than a farm? Industrial Revolution. You drive a car? Industrial Revolution. You get 12 years of free formal education? Industrial Revolution. Your bed, your antibiotics, your toilet, your contraception, your tap water, your every waking and sleeping second. Industrial Revolution. Here's one simple statistic that sums it up. Before the Industrial Revolution, about 80% of the world's population was engaged in farming to keep itself and the other 20% of people from starving. Today, in the United States, less than 1% of people list their occupation as farming. The Industrial Revolution was an increase in production brought about by the use of machines and characterized by the use of new energy sources.
Due to the Industrial Revolution, the population of cities grew enormously as people moved from the countryside to cities or towns in search of work. This change is called urbanization. We can see today that most people live in cities, towns, or in suburban settings. The Industrial Revolution created the growth of a movement called capitalism. Capitalism gave power to business owners. It made some individuals very wealthy. It allowed creative entrepreneurs, ingenious inventors, and ambitious businessmen to make lots of money for themselves without very much government involvement. Capitalism meant that governments didn't have the power to control how business owners treated their workers. Many business owners during the Industrial Revolution didn't treat their workers well. This is called exploitation, and it was because of this that organisations called labour unions were formed. Unions protected the rights of workers and fought for better wages and working conditions. Unions operate today and are still very active in protecting and promoting the rights of both workers and employers. The building of factories and burning of fossil fuels increased pollution. Pollution is something we struggle with today. Global warming and climate change play a big part in modern-day concerns about the environment. Modern society functions through the buying and selling of goods and services. This is called consumerism, which began with the Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution also increased international trade. This means that Britain traded goods and services with other countries. During the Industrial Revolution, women worked in factories and coal mines. Women often did work that men usually do. They were paid poorly for their work and didn't have the rights to vote in government elections. Some women fought against this, and towards the end of the Industrial Revolution, their efforts were recognised as governments began to allow them to vote and speak up for their rights. This was the beginning of the feminist movement that still fights today for the equality of women in all aspects of.
The term Fourth Industrial Revolution was coined by the founder of the World Economic Forum, a former professor named Klaus Schwab. Schwab wrote a book with that title to describe an era marked by a technological revolution that is blurring the lines between the physical, digital, and biological spheres. Let's break that down. Technologies like artificial intelligence, autonomous vehicles, or the Internet of Things are becoming ingrained in our day-to-day lives and even our bodies. Think of voice-activated virtual assistants, Face ID recognition, or healthcare sensors. The first industrial revolution started in Great Britain around 1760 and spread to Europe and North America through the early 1800s. It was powered by a major invention, the steam engine. The result? New manufacturing processes, the creation of factories, and a booming textiles industry. From the late 1800s, the second industrial revolution was marked by mass production and new industries like steel, oil, and electricity. The light bulb, telephone, and internal combustion engine were a few of the major inventions of this era. The third industrial revolution, sometimes known as the digital revolution, occurred in the second half of the 20th century. In just a few decades, we saw the invention of the semiconductor, personal computer, and the internet. So what separates the fourth industrial revolution from the third? Experts say the main difference is that technology is merging more and more with humans' lives, and that technological change is happening faster than ever. Consider this. It took 75 years for 100 million users to adopt the telephone. Instagram signed up 100 million users in just 2 years, while Pokemon Go caught that amount in 1 month. 3D printing is just one example of fast-paced technology in the fourth industrial revolution. The industry has gone from a business idea to big business, with 3D printer shipments expected to increase from just under 200,000 in 2015 to 2.4 million in 2020. Today, you can have a hip replacement from a 3D printed bone, or use a 3D printed bionic arm. Talk about blurring the line between humans and technology, right? Organizations are embracing new technologies to make their businesses more efficient, similar to how they embraced the steam engine during the first industrial revolution. But some companies and governments are struggling to keep up with the fast pace of technological change. Research shows innovators, investors, and shareholders benefit the most from innovation. The risk is that the fourth industrial revolution is making inequality, which is already a big issue, even worse. One study found billionaires have driven almost 80% of the 40 main breakthrough innovations over the last 40 years. That's a problem when the richest 1% of households already own nearly half of the world's wealth. Experts warn we are in a winner-takes-all economy, where high-skilled workers are rewarded with high pay and the rest of workers are left out.
So here are the advantages. Higher productivity. Apparently, productivity of each industrial era goes up 50 times over the preceding age. This is mainly because of increased automation. Also, another advantage is the improved quality of life. Technology has made possible new products and services that increase the efficiency and pleasure of our personal lives. Ordering a cab, booking a flight, buying a product, making a payment, listening to music, watching a film, playing a game, and even controlling the lights and temperature in our house. New markets. Klaus Schwab mentioned that a fusion of technologies that is blurring the lines between physical, digital, and biological spheres will create new markets and growth opportunities. There'll be also a lower barrier to entrepreneurship. We can already see that with new technologies such as 3D printing for prototyping, the barriers between inventors and markets are reduced. Entrepreneurs can now establish the companies and test various products with a lower startup cost without the traditional time and cost constraints often encountered with traditional prototyping methods.